Welcome to the first Magnetic Leadership Workshop. This week, we're talking about how to create results without chaos. So, your thoughts are what determine the results you get. Every invention, every business idea, everything that's been created, a result that's been created, has started with somebody's thoughts. Thoughts about how this is possible, thoughts about how I want to create that. Maybe it will work. It's a leader that had a vision about what could be possible. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, how to create results without chaos. In this half hour, you'll learn about how to modify your mindset to keep you moving towards your goal, how to find the root cause of what you haven't achieved in the past, and then why failing upward increases your chances of success, and then how to feel confident to get what you want. So, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. This is by Henry Ford, and it is so true because, like we talked about, if you think that you can create this result, you're right. If you think you can't, you won't take any action to do that. So I had a client and he brought an issue that he was frustrated with one of his employees and how they interacted with another department. So I asked him what he thought about this department. And he said, well, I don't like the department. We've never gotten along with the department. They don't do what they say they're going to do. We've always had this issue. We're never going to work well with them, but I still need my employee to get along with them. But if you see that it's his thoughts, it is the leader's thoughts that we aren't going to have a good relationship with this other department. He already had decided that it wasn't going to work, this relationship with this other department. And so his thoughts about it was making him not put any effort into to building that relationship, to even setting a goal to change it for himself and his employees. And so that's how the way you're thinking, one example of how that can affect the result that you even think is possible or not possible. And the reason this happens is because of how the brain works. The brain likes simplicity. It likes to tell a story that makes us not take any action, not have to do anything. It doesn't like things to be complex. And 99% of the time, that's fine. But 1%, when you want to create something different, then that's a problem. And you have to overcome that, what your brain's thinking. And the reason this happens is that primitive part of your brain that is just designed to keep you safe. It keeps you alive. That's an amazing thing. But that also wants to protect you from doing anything that it perceives as dangerous. And that can be anything that's new. And it can make you feel anxious when you're trying to do something new. So that can be taking on a new project that you've never done before. That can be setting a big goal for yourself that you don't have created before, haven't done before, or even setting a vision for your department. When you decide you want to create something, then that's when your brain doesn't want you to go do that when it's new. So we all grow up thinking that we believe things because they're true, but the way the brain works, a lot of the thoughts that our brains offer us aren't facts. There are a lot of stories. There's things that we have picked up, they're subconscious, and they don't help us create what we want to create. Some of the things clients say, or I've thought, like, I don't belong at the table. I don't belong in that room. I can't be at that next level, or my boss doesn't respect me, or I can't do that. Some of these things are just thoughts. They aren't factual things that we can go prove or not, but they're thoughts that are holding us back from creating the result that we want to create. So, how can you maximize results? How can you get more results over and over? It's by intentionally overriding some of that primitive brain. It's that executive functioning, the planning, decision making, short term memory. It is the ability to intentionally decide what you're going to create. Know that other things are going to come up. Your brain is going to try to convince you not to do that. This process that I teach in much more detail to my clients and in the group program Magnetic Leadership System is called Train Your Brain. And this is a process that you can use, a skill to develop to increase your emotional intelligence, to override that story. Brene Brown calls it the shitty first draft. And this is a process that you can use to coach yourself to overcome some of that. So let's say you want to have this result, you're thinking it could be possible. The first thing to offer yourself, if you don't think that you can get it, is just that it could be possible. How could it be possible? And then making a list of 100 ways that you could accomplish that goal. So your brain is going to offer you all the ways that it's not going to work. And if your brain doesn't offer it to you, other people might offer it to you. And so you want to have a list of all the possibility to intentionally remind your brain that it is possible. And making that list when your brain also offers you or other people offer you all the reasons it's not possible, you can go back to that and look at the possibility. So the next step is making a decision, deciding that you're going to go after that result. And you can make this is a Rohn quote, and he says, "You cannot make progress without making decisions." So, the first way to move towards getting that result is just deciding that you're going to do it. And some things that get in the way of this are analysis paralysis, the inability to make a decision due to overthinking a problem. If you've ever been in meeting after meeting and there's discussion and more discussion, but there's never a decision being made, that's because of this analysis paralysis. We want to collect more and more data so that we can feel certain that it's going to work out 100% of the time, it's going to work out, except you're never in control of all the variables going forward. You're just in control of your commitment. And so if you accept that there's just uncertainty and you decide to move forward. So making a decision, it's the action or process of deciding something, a conclusion or resolution, or of resolving a question. So decisions is just a resolve. You're resolving that you are committing to working towards this result. And a lot of people say, but making a decision takes a long time. And actually, it doesn't. It takes a long time in indecision, but decisions happen in an instant. So, why make a decision? It saves time. All of this time you take in indecision, even if you decide not to work towards a goal or a result, that saves you time because then you can think about something else. But if you decide you're going to go towards that result, then you can start moving. Increases action. So once you make that decision, you can start taking action. And from that action, you're going to learn. It increases growth. Employees, if you're leading a team, employees want to be on a team that's taking action, that has momentum, that's growing, that they are taking action and knowing that they are having an impact on the customer, on the business. And that's the teams that employees want to be a part of, but that requires making decisions. So, coaching decision questions. Here are some things that you can use for yourself. If you are going to make a decision, you're having a hard time with it. Consider all the options. You can brainstorm all the things about the decision and go back and circle the things that are facts. What I talked about, the stories, a lot of times thoughts that we're having aren't actually facts, but they're limiting us from making a decision. So go back and separate those. If you're trying to decide between two options, if you imagine that both of them are successful, both of them turn out amazing, which one would you do? Number three, failure's no big deal. If you decide that it is not a big deal if you fail, if you make this decision, you move forward and it's a fail, then that takes that pressure away and helps you make a decision. Saying yes to both. What if you just said yes to both? What would that look like? And then what would you tell yourself 10 years from now? So if you're in 2032, after you've already have all the experience of the next 10 years, what would you tell yourself right now? And then worst case, best case. What's the best case scenario? If you make this decision, what's the worst case? And if you know the worst case, you can decide what you can do so that the worst case doesn't happen. So once you have worked on your mindset, you've made a decision, you've chose the result that you want, it's time to take action. So action's a foundational key to all success. So taking action, I talk about taking massive action. If you decide that you want to create a result, you are going to continue to take action until you get that result. There was a large project that I ran while I was a director of supply chain, and that was delivering units to the military, to the Army, Marines, and the Air Force. And there was never a time that I thought, I'm going to fail at this project. We are not going to deliver all of these units over the next 2 years. I just decided we are going to deliver this, made a commitment, took action, had failure, evaluated that, learned, redecided, recommitted, took more action, had failure, evaluated, learned. This is the process. But the thought was, we're not going to fail at this. Like, we will figure this out. And so if you take that same logic, that massive action of taking action until you get that result, and knowing that failure is just part of it, you are going to have failure. Nothing can be 100%. And if you're not having any failure, then you're probably not taking a lot of action. So an exercise you can do for this is 100 fails. So to change your mindset around failure, people that succeed more fail more. So if you track the number of fails you have and actually set that as a goal that you want to fail, then when something works out, that's great. But if it's a fail, you think, I failed, I learned, then you can add it to your failures list. So when you decide that you're going to take action, a lot of people don't want to do that because they feel like they're not confident. Confidence, you will not have confidence when you are doing something new because you haven't done it before. The definition of confidence is knowing that you can do something. But when you're doing things you've never done before, you will not have confidence. And that's where you rely on self-confidence. But some other emotions that come up when you are setting big goals, when you are starting to decide you want to create some results, you're going to have action and inaction. So action, one of the ways that you can take action is when you're feeling anxious. And the problem with taking action from feeling anxious, these are some of the things that I've seen. Imagine that you told the team to go take action. You're feeling anxious. You told them to go do all of this stuff. And the next day you're feeling anxious and you go back to them and say, don't do any of that. Now I want you to do this. And you do that over and over because you're feeling anxious. Then you don't make any momentum, and that can really hurt your team. Another one is taking action by feeling anxious, yelling at an employee. You're feeling anxious, and so you unload that on an employee. Those are things as a leader that you don't want to do. Another thing is if you're not taking action at all, you're feeling overwhelmed. Then you avoid working on things, avoid a project, read email instead of working on a strategic project that you want to do. Scrolling social media, doing busy work. And next week, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, being an emotional scientist, because when you decide to set big goals, to create more results, you are going to have more emotions that come up. And that's why growing your emotional intelligence will help you to still get results in a positive way, while knowing that some of these emotions are going to come up, but having net positive ways of dealing with the emotion. Net positive ways are healthy ways, being able to coach yourself, having strategies in place to help you with that stress, those feelings. Net negative things are things that long term affect you negatively in your life, like over drinking. If alcohol is the only way that you deal with stress or anxiety or overwhelm, that adds up to a net negative effect in your life. And there's lots of examples like that. So when you are deciding to make those decisions, when you're a leader and you're making decisions, you want to have your own back. And what this means is a lot of people are scared to set big goals, and they're not scared because of what other people are going to say if they fail. They're scared of how they're going to treat themselves when they um, when they fail or have failure. And so some of the thoughts that you can think are, I made the best decision I could with the information I had. Of course, in a year, in a couple years, I'm going to have a lot more information and maybe I would have made a different decision. But today, by making this decision and taking action, I'm already moving forward. I don't beat myself up. So no matter what happens, you're not going to beat yourself up, and I'll have my back no matter what. So no matter the outcome, and that increases your self-confidence in yourself. Because when you're doing something new, you don't actually need confidence, you need self-confidence. Oh, we're going to do an exercise now, and it's called How to Reverse Engineer Your Results. And so, if you're watching the replay of this, then just hit pause and you can go through this exercise. So, number one, take out a piece of paper. What's the result that you want to create? What is something that you've been wanting to do yourself, with your team, with your family, that you haven't thought was possible, but you want? So hit pause, write that down. Now you have your result written down. This is what you want to create. Now, what action do you need to take to get this result? And usually your brain is going to offer, I don't know, but push through that. What if you did know? What if you guessed? If you guessed at what you might need to do or what you need to go learn, what action would you need to take to get this result? So hit pause and write down 5 actions that you would take. So now that you have the actions that are written down, the only reason somebody takes action is because of something they're feeling or something they don't want to feel. So when you are wanting to have yourself take action, you want to feel certain, you want to feel excited. If you're excited about something, you're more likely to go do whatever it is you're excited about. So, and sometimes it can just be uncomfortable. Some of the things that you're going to do are uncomfortable, but just deciding, that's how you're going to feel, no matter what you want to feel, or self-confident, knowing that you can do this. And then those feelings are coming from the way you think. So write down how you want to feel, hit pause, write down how you want to feel. Now, what would you need to think to feel that way? Certainty is just, you're going to go take this action. If you're at work, like the project, I had the thought, there's no way this is going to fail. I will figure it out. That's the certainty. I will figure it out will cause you to take the action to get those results. So what other thoughts can you think of that would help you have the feeling that drives you to go take that action that will then get you that result? And write that down. I have a worksheet that I will send to you in the replay that takes you through this process also. So next week, we're going to be talking about become an emotional scientist to stop stressing out. And this is going to be a great one. It builds upon this. If you liked what I talked about here, this is going to be a great next step for that. It's another thing that I teach to my clients in the group coaching, and then also my individual clients. And this is 2 ways that people work with me, is in the group and then also individually. If you want to learn more, you can see more at www.aliciabenson.com. And the reason that I do all of this is really that I believe that every employee deserves to work for a great leader, and every leader deserves the coaching and training to be great. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week at Become an Emotional Scientist to Stop Stressing Out.